Christmas Eve at the Plaza Hotel was supposed to feel warm, elegant, and unforgettable. For Evelyn Carter, it became the night her marriage was publicly destroyed. 7 months pregnant, Evelyn stood near the grand velvet staircase with one hand resting protectively over her belly. She had spent the evening waiting for her husband, Cole Harrington, convinced he had planned a special surprise. He had, but the surprise arrived on his arm. Jade Monroe entered beside Cole wearing a glittering emerald gown, her hand placed possessively against his chest. Cameras immediately turned toward them. Guests whispered as Cole guided his mistress through the ballroom without once looking ashamed. Evelyn stopped breathing. Then Jade approached her with a crystal flute of red wine and a smile that was far too deliberate. The glass tilted. Dark wine splashed across Evelyn's pale maternity gown, spreading over the fabric like blood against snow. "Oh dear," Jade said sweetly. "Cheap material stains so easily." A shocked silence moved through the ballroom. Evelyn's hands began to tremble. She looked toward Cole, waiting for him to defend his pregnant wife. Instead, he laughed. "Go clean yourself up," he said coldly. "You're embarrassing us." That single word "us" revealed everything. Evelyn lowered her eyes, fighting tears as cameras captured the humiliation. Everyone in the room believed she was a powerless wife being replaced by a younger woman. No one knew the billionaire standing near the ballroom entrance had just recognized Evelyn's face. And within minutes, he would reveal that the woman Cole had humiliated was the missing daughter of the family that owned the Plaza Hotel and controlled the investment, keeping his company alive. Cole didn't defend her. He didn't reach for her. He didn't even look embarrassed. Instead, he gave Jade's waist a gentle squeeze and murmured, "Let's not make a scene, Evelyn. You're always so sensitive." Sensitive. The words sliced deeper than the wine had spread. The orchestra kept playing, but the music felt wrong, too bright, too cruel. Evelyn swayed slightly, the lights blurring, the room tilting. She clutched the banister, trying to steady her balance. No one moved to help her. Not one guest. Then, a voice deep, cold, commanding cut through the crowd. "That's enough." Every head turned. A tall man in a tailored black coat stood at the entrance, snow dusting his shoulders like frost on steel. His eyes, gray, sharp, unmistakably furious, were locked on Cole and Jade. Evelyn blinked, confused. She had never seen him before, but he knew exactly who she was, and he had come for one reason, because her suffering was about to end. The ballroom fell into an uneasy silence as the tall stranger stepped forward, snow melting slowly from the shoulders of his black wool coat. His presence alone shifted the air. People instinctively straightened their backs, unsure who he was, but certain he wasn't someone to ignore. The music faded into a strained whisper as the orchestra hesitated, confused by the sudden tension rippling through the glittering crowd. Evelyn blinked through the blur in her eyes. Something about the stranger's gaze felt strangely familiar, as if he carried a piece of a life she had lost long ago, but she couldn't place it. Her heart thudded weakly against her ribs, her breath shallow from the humiliation and the ache in her abdomen. Cole stepped forward first, puffing himself up like a man eager to reassert control. "Sir, this is a private event," he said sharply. "And whoever you are, you're interrupting something important." The stranger didn't look at him, not even for a second. His cold stare remained fixed on Evelyn, as though evaluating every tremble in her hands and every second she had spent standing alone. Then he finally spoke quietly, but with such authority that the nearest guest stiffened. "Important?" he repeated, his tone almost amused. "To whom?" Cole bristled. "To me? I'm Cole Harrington, deputy director at I know exactly who you are," the stranger cut in. "And what you are." A quiet gasp rippled through the nearby guests. Jade's smirk faded slightly, though she quickly masked it with a scoff. "Look," Jade said, stepping in front of Cole as if shielding her property. "Whoever you think you are, you can't just barge in here and accuse people. This poor girl," she gestured to Evelyn with a casual cruelty, "is making a scene again. She loves attention." Evelyn flinched. Jade said it with such ease, such confidence, as though Evelyn were nothing more than an inconvenience cluttering the room. But the stranger's expression hardened. "Interesting choice of words," he murmured, considering she was the one humiliated, not the one holding the wine glass. Jade's cheeks reddened. "It was an accident." "No," the stranger said softly. "It wasn't." There was something chilling in the certainty of his voice, and for the first time, Jade looked uneasy. She glanced at Cole, expecting him to jump in, but Cole's face had shifted his annoyance, giving way to nervousness, as he realized this stranger wasn't intimidated by wealth or status. "Who are you?" Cole demanded, voice cracking slightly. The stranger finally turned his head and met Cole's eyes. "Someone who doesn't tolerate cruelty," he said calmly, "especially toward a woman carrying a child." The emphasis made Cole swallow hard. Then the stranger stepped closer to Evelyn, not touching her, but lowering his voice enough that only she could hear him. "You need to sit," he said. "You're shaking." It wasn't a question, it was an observation, a deeply accurate one. Evelyn's knees wobbled as the chandelier lights blurred again, her breath hitched, and a wave of dizziness washed over her. But before she could respond, Jade burst out. "Oh, please, she's always dramatic." "She's not actually." Evelyn's hand flew to her stomach, her face twisting in pain. The stranger's eyes sharpened instantly. "Cole," he said, his voice a blade, "your wife is about to collapse." Cole opened his mouth to argue, but it was too late. Evelyn's body swayed, and then the entire ballroom watched as she began to fall. Evelyn didn't feel the floor leave her feet. All she felt was the sudden rush of heat flooding her face, the cold sweat on her neck, and the crushing weight around her abdomen as the ballroom spun out of focus. A sharp cramp twisted through her belly, so sudden, so deep that her breath fractured into small, frightened gasps. Her fingers slipped from the railing as her vision washed into white noise. Someone screamed. Another voice shouted for help, but the sound felt muffled, distant, as though she were sinking underwater. And then, arms strong, steady, unyielding, caught her before she hit the polished marble. The stranger. He held her as if she weighed nothing, lowering her against his chest with a care that stunned the room into silence. Guests stepped back, making space without being asked, sensing instinctively they were in the presence of someone who was used to commanding it. Evelyn's eyes fluttered open, unfocused. Her voice was barely a whisper. I'm fine. I just need a moment." "You're not fine," the man replied, his tone firm yet gentle. "You're in distress. Stay still." She felt the deep rumble of his voice through his coat. It grounded her more than the floor beneath her ever could. For a brief moment, Evelyn let herself rest her head against him, the pain slowly ebbing into something manageable. Cole rushed forward at last, though his expression held more annoyance than concern. "Evelyn, what now? Are you trying to embarrass me even more tonight?" A murmur of disgust rippled through the nearby guests, subtle but unmistakable. "Step back," the stranger commanded without raising his voice. Cole bristled. "Excuse me? That's my wife." "She is a pregnant woman who needs medical attention," the stranger said sharply, "and you clearly aren't providing any." "Brosy." Jade clung to Cole's arm, trying to pull him back, but her eyes darted nervously between the stranger's face and the onlookers' reactions. The tide of public opinion was shifting fast, and she felt it. Evelyn tried to sit up, wincing. "Please, I don't want to cause a scene." The stranger shook his head. "You didn't cause this, others did." He lifted her carefully, one arm beneath her knees, the other bracing her back. Evelyn gasped softly, both from the sudden movement and the shock that someone, a complete stranger, was handling her with more care than her own husband had in months. People whispered, "Who is he? He's not just anyone. He looks like—" but no, that can't be. Cole stepped forward again, frustrated. "Put her down, she's overreacting. She does this all the— You will not speak to her again tonight," the stranger said coldly. The authority in his voice froze Cole mid-step. Then the stranger turned to one of the hotel staff. "Call the medical team, now." The staff member hurried away, almost tripping in his haste. Evelyn's breathing steadied slightly, though her heart still hammered with fear, pain, and humiliation. But beneath it all was something else. Confusion, familiarity, as if she were looking at a face woven from memories she didn't know she had. Who are you?" she whispered. The stranger looked down at her, his expression unreadable. "A friend," he said quietly. "One you haven't met yet." And as the medical team rushed through the doors, the chandeliers trembling slightly from the sudden movement, the stranger held her with unwavering steadiness while the entire ballroom watched with wide, breathless eyes. Then he added, barely audible, "And I've been searching for you for a very long time." The sirens were faint behind the thick glass of the private ambulance, but Evelyn heard them like echoes carried from miles away. She drifted in and out of consciousness, her head leaning against the cool cushion behind her. A paramedic pressed a gentle hand to her shoulder while monitoring her vitals, but it was the stranger sitting beside her, silent, composed, unshaken, who held her attention every time her eyes fluttered open. He didn't touch her, not even once, yet she felt anchored by him, as if his presence alone kept the panic from swallowing her whole. The ambulance stopped at a private hospital on the Upper East Side, not the usual emergency wing, but a VIP entrance with marble floors and soft lighting meant to calm the nerves of the elite. The orderlies bowed their heads slightly when they saw the stranger. Not out of fear, out of recognition. Evelyn noticed it even in her haze. They knew him. She was rushed into a private suite, clean, warm, quiet, far from the cold glamour of the plaza. Machines hummed softly while doctors examined her. One monitored her blood pressure, while another checked the baby's heartbeat. Strong, steady, reassuring. "Your child is safe," the doctor said at last. "You need rest and hydration." Stress triggered the episode. No signs of early labor. Relief washed over Evelyn so fast her chest trembled. But before she could thank the doctor, he stepped aside and the stranger appeared in the doorway. He had removed his coat, revealing a tailored charcoal suit beneath, the kind only men of extraordinary means wore. His posture was rigid, controlled, but his eyes, those steel-gray eyes, softened the moment they met hers. "You're stable," he said as though he'd personally willed her body back to safety. "That's all that matters." Evelyn swallowed, unsure how to respond. I still don't know who you are." "You will," he answered quietly. A nurse interrupted by bringing Evelyn warm water. As she drank with trembling hands, the stranger stepped outside, but not far. Through the crack in the door, Evelyn saw him speaking to someone in a low, firm voice. Then she heard it. "Run a full medical file, and get what I asked for." She frowned. What he asked for? The nurse gave her a reassuring smile. "He hasn't left the floor since we brought you in. He shouldn't have to stay," Evelyn murmured. The nurse paused. Her expression shifted almost as if she were about to say something important, but then she simply smiled again. "Some people don't care about inconvenience when someone matters." Someone matters. The words struck Evelyn oddly. No one, not even Cole, had treated her like she mattered in a long time. When the nurse left, the stranger walked back in, loosening his tie as though preparing for a long night. He studied her carefully as if piecing together a puzzle he had waited years to solve. "I should call my husband," Evelyn said finally, though her voice wavered. His jaw tightened. "He knows where you are. The hotel staff updated him." "And he didn't come?" she whispered. The stranger didn't answer. He didn't need to. Evelyn looked down at her hands. "Why? Why were you even at the gala?" "For you," he said simply. Her breath froze. "For me? You don't even know me." His gaze held hers, unwavering. "Evelyn, I do know you." She stared at him, confusion deepening. Then he stepped closer and lowered his voice, each word slow and deliberate. "And tonight I'll prove it." Cole Harrington finally arrived at the hospital 3 hours after Evelyn had collapsed, not with worry in his eyes but irritation in his step. He walked into the private suite with Jade close behind him, both dressed as if they were returning from a celebration rather than checking on a pregnant wife who had fallen unconscious in front of 300 guests. Evelyn looked up from the hospital bed, her face pale, her eyes heavy. She had hoped, despite everything, for a flicker of concern. A simple "Are you okay?" A whisper of remorse. Anything. Instead, Cole glanced at the medical equipment, then at the plush suite, and scoffed. "Well, this explains the ambulance bill," he muttered. "You always find the most expensive way to get attention." Jade stifled a laugh behind her manicured fingers. Evelyn's heart throbbed with a different kind of pain. "I didn't choose this room," she whispered. "The doctors brought me here. Because someone insisted on it," Jade added, her voice sing-song and cruel. "Your new friend." Evelyn stiffened. She didn't know the stranger's name or his connection to her, but she knew he was the only one who had cared enough to stay. He hadn't left the floor at all. Meanwhile, Cole was arriving now after finishing dinner, likely dessert, and whatever else Jade demanded of him. Cole took a seat, not by Evelyn, but on the lounge chair next to Jade. "You really embarrassed me tonight," he said sharply. "Fainting in the middle of the ballroom? People think you did it for sympathy." Evelyn blinked, stunned. "I nearly fell because of stress, Cole, because you let someone humiliate me." "Here we go again," he snapped, rolling his eyes. "Everything is always my fault. If you can't handle a little teasing, maybe you shouldn't be out in public." In Freshen, if nothing had alluded, or same word to hot. "A little teasing?" Evelyn's voice cracked. "She poured wine on me." Jade leaned forward, faking innocence. "Oh, come on. It was an accident. I even apologized." "You smirked," Evelyn whispered. Jade shrugged, her eyes shimmering with triumph. Cole waved a dismissive hand. "Enough. I'm not going to argue. The board of executives were watching. Do you realize how bad that made me look?" He spoke as if Evelyn's health, her fear, her humiliation, Even her child were inconveniences tarnishing his evening. Evelyn's breath trembled. Our baby was in danger. Cole didn't flinch. Doctors said the baby is fine, so stop milking this. I had important people to talk to. I can't jump every time you have a mood swing. Tears stung Evelyn's eyes. She wasn't emotional. She wasn't overreacting. She was breaking. The door opened quietly, and the stranger stepped inside with a calm, measured stride. He didn't look at Cole or Jade. His eyes went straight to Evelyn, reading her shaken breath, her trembling hands, her barely contained hurt. Cole stood quickly, puffing his chest. You again? I told the nurse I don't want random strangers. He's not a stranger, Evelyn said softly, surprising even herself. He helped me when you didn't. End quote. The stranger's expression didn't change, but something cold and decisive flickered in his eyes. Cole scoffed. Helped? He's meddling. No, the man said finally, his tone low and dangerous. I'm intervening. Jade crossed her arms. Who do you think you are? He stepped closer, eyes icy and clear. Someone who knows exactly what you two did tonight. Cole's face hardened. And what does that supposed to mean? The stranger paused, letting silence coil like a warning. Then he spoke quietly enough to make Jade's smirk vanish. It means your night is far from over. The hospital room dimmed to a soft amber glow as the night deepened. Machines hummed steadily, their quiet rhythm the only constant in a world that felt as though it were collapsing beneath Evelyn's feet. Cole and Jade had stormed out minutes earlier, offended by the stranger's calm defiance and irritated by Evelyn's refusal to stop being dramatic. The door shutting behind them had left the air strangely peaceful, yet the silence carried its own weight. Evelyn lay still, one hand resting over her belly, the other gripping the blanket as if it were a lifeline. The stranger stood by the window now, his silhouette framed by the New York skyline. Snow flurries drifted against the tall glass, melting instantly under the warmth of the room. Why are you helping me? She asked softly, the question slipping out before she could stop it. He didn't turn immediately. Because someone should have, he answered. Someone should have a long time ago. His words struck her deeper than she expected. She swallowed hard, her throat tight. The events of the evening had shaken more than her health. They had yanked open memories she had carefully buried for years. She closed her eyes. A small apartment in Queens, the sound of clattering pipes, the trembling voice of the social worker telling her she would be taken to a different foster home just for a little while. The look of pity adults wore around her like a uniform. Tears she wiped silently at night so no one would think she was weak. She had spent her life trying to prove she wasn't a burden, and that desperate need for stability had led her straight into Cole's arms. 7 years ago, he had seemed gentle, attentive, grateful to have someone who believed in him. He used to bring her cheap roses wrapped in plastic, and she thought they were more beautiful than diamonds. He used to tell her she was strong, capable, worth loving. But slowly, almost imperceptibly, his affection had shifted into criticism, then control, then indifference. Every argument ended with her apologizing. Every mistake, even the smallest one, became proof she wasn't good enough. He chipped away at her confidence, grain by grain, until she was a ghost of the fearless girl she'd once been. And tonight, watching him stand proudly with Jade while she sank into humiliation, a part of her heart she didn't know was still alive finally cracked open. The stranger turned from the window at last and walked closer. His steps were slow, deliberate, almost cautious, as if he understood how fragile she felt. You weren't meant to live like this, he said quietly. Evelyn tried to smile, but it trembled. Maybe this is all I was meant for. No, he said, and this time his voice held a fierce certainty. Evelyn, you have no idea who you really are. A chill moved down her spine. What do you mean? He exhaled, the kind of exhale someone releases when they've been carrying a truth too heavy for too long. I didn't want to say this tonight. Not like this. Not when you're hurt. Her fingers tightened around the blanket. But you deserve the truth, he continued, and hiding it any longer would be a greater cruelty than what they did to you tonight. Evelyn's little pulse thudded in her ears. She felt the room tilt, not from weakness this time, but from fear and anticipation she couldn't name. What truth? She whispered. The stranger stepped closer, his eyes steady and unflinching. Then he spoke a single sentence that shattered the fragile world she knew. Evelyn, you were never abandoned. Your real family has been searching for you for 28 years. Evelyn stared at the stranger, her breath catching somewhere between disbelief and fear. The room felt impossibly still, as if the city outside had paused its heartbeat just to hear what he was about to say next. Her fingers curled tightly into the blanket, trying to anchor herself in a world that suddenly felt unfamiliar. "What do you mean? Searching for me?" she whispered. "My file said I was abandoned as an infant. No relatives. No one looking." The stranger's jaw flexed, the faintest sign of anger. Not at her, never at her, but at the circumstances that shaped her life. "That file was wrong," he said, "tampered with, hidden. By who?" His silence was enough of an answer. Evelyn swallowed painfully. She had always sensed something off in her records. Pages missing, vague notes, social workers who avoided eye contact. But she never expected the truth to be this large, this life-changing. The stranger reached into the inside pocket of his suit. For a moment, Evelyn thought he might reveal an ID, something to finally tell her his name. Instead, he placed a sealed envelope on the bedside table. Her breath hitched. The paper bore a medical lab's insignia. She recognized it, Sterling Medical Research Institute, one of the most expensive genetic labs in the country. "I took a DNA sample the moment you arrived," he said. "Your hair was damp from the snow. It wasn't difficult. Lessened. Please for you tested me without asking?" His expression softened. "I had to be sure before I said anything, before I risked giving you hope you might not be ready for." She looked at the envelope again. Her chest tightened. Hope had never been a gift for her. It had always been a wound, something fragile that life punished her for believing in. "I don't understand," she said. "Why would anyone be looking for me? I'm just—" "You are not just anything," the stranger interrupted firmly. "You were born into one of the most powerful families in the country, and you were taken from them." Her vision blurred. The words were too heavy to digest. He moved closer, pulling a chair to her bedside as if preparing for a conversation he had rehearsed 1,000 times. His voice lowered to a steady calm. "Your biological father is Alexander Sterling." Evelyn's breath vanished. She had heard that name her entire life. Everyone had. Sterling Global, Sterling Tower, Sterling Foundation. A legacy carved into the skyline of Manhattan. Her mind tried to reject it immediately. It was too much. Too surreal. "No," she whispered. "That's impossible." "It's the truth," he said. "You were kidnapped as an infant during a hospital transfer. The nurse on duty disappeared. The file was rewritten. The Sterlings spent years searching, hiring investigators, reopening cold leads, but the trail went cold until tonight." Evelyn trembled. "But why now? Why me?" The stranger hesitated for the first time all evening. "Because I recognized you," he said finally. "Your eyes, your smile, the way you carry yourself. I've seen your face every year in the private family archives." "Archives?" she echoed faintly. He exhaled. "Evelyn, I'm not just someone who happened to be there tonight." Her pulse raced. Sweat beaded on her palms. He stood slowly as if revealing a truth that would change everything. "My name is Nathaniel Sterling." The room spun. "And I," he continued, voice steady as steel, "am your older brother." Evelyn's heart cracked open. Shock, grief, and something painfully like recognition flooding through her. Nathaniel reached for the envelope, sliding it gently toward her. "This," he said, "is the DNA test confirming it." Her hands trembled as she reached for it. But before she could open it, the door burst open and Cole stood there, fury blazing in his eyes. Cole's footsteps thundered into the hospital room like a storm. His eyes, red from anger or alcohol, it was impossible to tell, locked onto Nathaniel first, then onto Evelyn clutching the sealed DNA envelope. Fury twisted his features. "What the hell is going on here?" he snapped. "Who is this man, and why is he still near my wife?" Nathaniel didn't blink. "Your wife?" he echoed softly, almost with pity. "You lost the right to call her that the moment you let another woman humiliate her. It's our force now." Cole scoffed. "Oh, spare me. Evelyn knows how dramatic she gets. If she hadn't overreacted, she fainted." Nathaniel cut in sharply. "Because of you." Cole stepped forward, pointing a trembling finger at him. "I don't care who you think you are. Stay out of my marriage." "It isn't a marriage," Nathaniel said quietly. "It's captivity." Evelyn gasped softly. Cole froze. For a moment, something ugly flickered in his eyes. Then came the explosion. "You!" Cole roared, turning on Evelyn. "You embarrass me. You ruin my reputation. And now you're bringing rich strangers into our business." "She didn't bring me," Nathaniel replied. "I came because she needed someone." Cole glared at Evelyn. "You're coming home, now." "I'm not leaving tonight," she whispered, her voice trembling but firm. "Oh, yes, you are," he barked. "Pack your things. I am done being humiliated." "She's pregnant," Nathaniel said. "She's staying under medical supervision." Cole let out a humorless laugh. You don't get a say in this. Nathaniel stepped forward, and the room seemed to shrink. I do, and I will. Something snapped inside Cole. His pride couldn't withstand the quiet authority in Nathaniel's voice, nor the way Evelyn was finally looking at anyone with trust instead of fear. You think you're special? Cole hissed. You think a fancy suit makes you important? Nathaniel's expression didn't change. Evelyn, do you want him here? Her lips parted, her hands trembled. For the first time in years, she felt the weight of her own voice. No, she whispered. I don't. Cole went still. She had never said those words to him. Not once. You ungrateful little Nathaniel stepped between them, a solid wall of calm steel. Watch your next word very carefully. Cole's rage spiraled. You don't get to talk to me like I do, Nathaniel said, and his voice dropped to a terrifying softness. Because she is my family. Cole's laugh cracked. Family? She has no family. She was a nobody when I met her. Nathaniel moved faster than Evelyn could blink. One decisive step, one firm shove, and Cole stumbled backward, not violently, just enough to force distance. You will never speak about her that way again, Nathaniel said. Not after tonight. Not ever. Cole's face twisted into something dark, vindictive. Fine. If she wants to stay here, let her. But when she's discharged, she's not coming back. Our home is mine. She's out. An ocean. Evelyn felt the words like cold shards piercing her ribs, but Nathaniel didn't flinch. She won't need your home, he said. She doesn't need anything from you. The door burst open again as a nurse rushed in. Sir, you need to leave. The patient needs calm. Cole pointed at Evelyn one last time. You'll regret this, both of you. He stormed out, Jade's heels clicking rapidly behind him. The room fell quiet again. Evelyn's breath trembled. Nathaniel, what happens now? He looked at her, something fierce and protective burning in his eyes. Then he said the words that would change her life forever. Now, you're coming home with me. Evelyn had imagined many versions of home. Throughout her life, foster houses with creaky floors, small apartments she rented with minimum wage pay, and later, the condo she shared with Cole, where she tried so hard to make every corner warm. None of those places prepared her for the sight that greeted her when Nathaniel's black SUV rolled silently through the iron gates. The Sterling townhouse rose like something out of a different world, a limestone mansion stretching across a corner of the Upper East Side, glowing under winter streetlights, tall windows, wrought iron balconies, a carved crest above the entryway, an estate that whispered history, legacy, and power. Evelyn stared out the window, her breath catching. This can't be for me. It's for our family, Nathaniel corrected softly. Which means it's yours. 2 uniformed staff opened the car doors before the engine even turned off. Good evening, Mr. Sterling, they greeted in unison, then turned respectfully to Evelyn. Welcome home, Miss Carter. Evelyn startled. It's Carter, she said quickly. Just Carter. Nathaniel's gaze softened. For now, he murmured. As she stepped out of the SUV, the cold air nipped her cheeks, but the warmth flooding her chest felt almost unreal. She'd never had a place where people were waiting for her arrival. Never had a door opened because someone recognized her presence as something important. Inside, the entrance hall stretched upward into a chandelier dome of crystal and soft gold light. Marble floors reflected the glow. A sweeping staircase curved toward the second floor like a ribbon of ivory stone. Portraits lined the walls, Sterlings from generations past, painted with an elegance that spoke of wealth and endurance. Evelyn's voice trembled. Nathaniel, I don't belong here. You belong here more than anywhere you've ever been, he replied. This is the house you were meant to grow up in. A graceful woman in her 50s approached, wearing a black dress and a warm expression. Miss Carter, she said, bowing her head slightly. I'm Helena, the house manager. We've prepared the East Wing suite for you. If you need anything at all, day or night, please tell me. Evelyn shook her head, overwhelmed. Please, I don't want to be treated differently. You're not being treated differently, Helena said kindly. You're being treated as family. The word made Evelyn's throat tighten. She blinked rapidly, fighting tears. Nathaniel placed a gentle hand on her elbow. Come, he said. There's something I want you to see. If you could. Mine. He led her down a long hallway, past quiet sitting rooms and shelves of leather-bound books, until they reached a set of double doors. Nathaniel opened them slowly. Inside was a nursery. Soft lighting, pale cream walls, a crib built from carved wood, a rocking chair near the window, a mobile made of tiny silver stars turning slowly above the crib. Evelyn pressed a hand to her mouth. What is this? A room that was prepared 28 years ago, Nathaniel said quietly. For you? Asked for. Tears spilled down her cheeks before she could stop them. Her legs weakened, and she sank onto the rocking chair as if the weight of everything finally became too much. Nathaniel knelt beside her. Evelyn, your disappearance shattered this family. Our father never stopped looking. Not 1 year passed without him sending investigators, reopening files, funding new searches. Evelyn shook her head, trembling. Why would anyone take me? Nathaniel's eyes hardened. That's what we intend to find out. She swallowed, fear creeping in. You think it wasn't an accident? I know it wasn't, he said. And whoever did it may still be out there. Before Evelyn could process his words, Helena appeared in the doorway, pale and breathless. Mr. Sterling, she whispered. You have a visitor. Nathaniel rose to his feet. At this hour? Who is it? Helena hesitated, her voice trembling. Sir, it's your father. Jade Monroe had always believed she understood power. She had built her social media empire on image, influence, and carefully crafted illusions. She knew how to charm, how to manipulate, how to make people believe she belonged in places she had no right standing in. But as she sat in her luxury apartment 2 blocks from Times Square scrolling through the news on her iPhone with trembling fingers, she realized she had never understood real power at all because real power had a name, Sterling. And Evelyn, quiet, gentle, nobody. Evelyn was one of them. The headline glared from the screen. Sterling family identifies long-lost daughter. Private security seen at Upper East Side estate. Jade's breath hitched. She clicked the article open with a shaking thumb. The details were vague, but the implications were devastating. A source within the Sterling Foundation confirmed that Alexander Sterling had returned to New York unexpectedly, and staff reported preparations inside the estate, consistent with receiving a new family member. Oh my God, Jade whispered. This is bad. This is very, very bad. She paced the apartment, nearly tripping over a designer heel tossed aside on the floor. Her heart hammered as realization washed over her. If Evelyn was a Sterling, then Jade hadn't just mocked a pregnant woman. She had humiliated the heir to a $1 trillion empire in front of hundreds of guests, in front of donors, in front of people who would never forget. Her influencer contracts gone, her brand sponsorships done, her reputation finished. She grabbed her coat and rushed out the door, ignoring Cole's texts. She had been avoiding him ever since he stormed out of the hospital, mostly because she was afraid he'd figure out the truth before she did. Jade practically flew into the elevator, stabbing the lobby button. Come on, she muttered. When she reached the street, she hailed the first cab she saw, 5th Avenue, Sterling Townhouse. Hurry. The cab driver gave her a strange look. Ma'am, you sure about that place? Yes, Jade snapped. Just drive. End quote. But her bravado evaporated as she approached the wrought iron gates. The townhouse was lit brightly despite the late hour, security stationed outside. As she stepped out of the cab, one of the guards immediately raised a hand. Stop. State your business. I'm here to see Evelyn Carter, Jade said, forcing a tight smile. She knows me. I'm her friend. The guard didn't blink. Miss Carter is not receiving visitors. Jade's breath faltered. But I just want to talk to you, need to leave. Panic clawed at her throat. Listen, whatever you think happened tonight, we know exactly what happened, the guard replied coldly. And we know who you are. Jade took a step back, her heels scraping against the pavement. Another guard approached. Miss Monroe, for your own sake, don't attempt to contact Miss Carter again. The family is aware of your actions. What does that mean? She whispered. It means, the guard said, lowering his voice. Your name has been flagged. You won't get within 50 feet of her. Jade's knees buckled slightly. This can't be happening. I didn't know she was a Sterling. I swear I didn't know. Power doesn't care what you knew, the guard said. Only what you did. A cold gust of wind swept across 5th Avenue. Jade looked up at the glowing windows, heart pounding, fear curling through her like smoke. What had she done? And more importantly, what would the Sterlings do next? Before she could collect her thoughts, one of the guards spoke into his earpiece. Sir, a call from the hospital. It's urgent. Then he turned toward the door. Mr. Sterling needs to come inside. Now. Morning sunlight filtered gently through the tall windows of the Sterling townhouse, warming the edges of the cream-colored curtains and brushing soft light over Evelyn's face as she woke. For a moment, she didn't remember where she was. There was no sound of Cole rushing through drawers, no scent of Jade's perfume clinging to his coats, no tension waiting to erupt. Instead, there was silence. Peaceful, luxurious, almost sacred. A knock sounded at the door before Helena stepped in with a tray. "Good morning, Miss Carter. I brought breakfast. Dr. Rivington also sent supplements he wants you to take today." Evelyn sat up slowly, her hand instinctively resting on her belly. "Thank you," she said softly. "Really, this is more care than I'm used to." Helena's expression softened. "You deserve care, dear, not survival." The words nearly broke her. Later, 2 nurses entered with a quiet professionalism Evelyn had never experienced. They checked her vitals, monitored the baby's heartbeat again, and adjusted her hydration plan. When they left, a stylist arrived with warm hands and gentle words, offering to wash and dry Evelyn's hair so she didn't have to strain herself. She almost cried when she saw her reflection afterward. Not because she looked glamorous, she didn't. She looked rested, safe, human. Nathaniel entered then, pausing at the doorway as if he didn't want to intrude. "How are you feeling?" he asked. Evelyn smiled faintly. "Better. Overwhelmed, but better." He nodded. "Good. You'll need your strength in the days ahead." She looked at him, worry clouding her eyes. "Because of Cole?" "Because of everything," Nathaniel replied. "Your identity, your past, the investigation into what happened when you were taken. And yes, because of Cole." He approached the desk and placed several folders down. "Your husband drained your joint account last night. He also attempted to access your medical files at the hospital, but the staff blocked him." Evelyn inhaled sharply. "Why would he?" "Control," Nathaniel said. "Fear, desperation. Men like him don't respond well when the person they underestimated slips out of reach." Evelyn dropped her gaze. "I don't want to be afraid anymore. That's why you're here," he said quietly, "and that's why we prepare." A moment later, Helena stepped back in. "Mr. Sterling, the tailoring team, is ready for Miss Carter." Nathaniel gestured toward the hall. "Come. Today we rebuild more than just safety." 8. Evelyn followed him into a sunlit room lined with mirrors. Garment bags hung neatly along the walls, soft maternity dresses, coats from designers she only recognized from magazines, comfortable yet elegant clothing curated specifically for her changing body. One of the stylists approached with a polite nod. "Miss Carter, we'll fit you for several outfits today. You'll need them." "For what?" Evelyn asked. Nathaniel met her gaze in the mirror. "Your reintroduction to the world and to the Sterling legacy." Her breath caught. She had never imagined herself as anything more than a quiet woman who worked hard, loved deeply, and endured too much. But now, looking at herself surrounded by people preparing her for a life she never knew she had lost, something inside her shifted. Resolve, strength, a spark she thought Cole had extinguished. Hours later, dressed in a soft cashmere coat and warm winter boots, Evelyn stepped outside for her first breath of fresh air since the hospital. Nathaniel waited with the car, hands in his pockets against the cold. "Ready?" he asked. "No," she admitted, "but I want to be." The SUV pulled away from the curb, Manhattan unfolding before them. "Where are we going?" Evelyn asked quietly. Nathaniel glanced at her. "To meet the man whose life shattered when you disappeared." Her heart stopped. "Evelyn," he said gently, "we're going to meet our father." The car turned onto Fifth Avenue as Evelyn's pulse thundered, and the Sterling Tower came into view, its doors already open, as if waiting for her. The moment Evelyn stepped into Sterling Tower, she felt something shift inside her. The building itself radiated authority, sleek marble floors, glass elevators, reflecting the Manhattan skyline, and a constant hum of purposeful movement. People in tailored suits passed by with quiet efficiency, each one casting curious glances toward her. Not hostile, not judgmental, just knowing, as if they already understood who she was, even though she was still learning. Nathaniel guided her through the private executive entrance. Security nodded in respect. Keycards clicked. Doors opened automatically. "Is it always like this?" she whispered. "For Sterling's," he replied. "Yes, thanks for just." They entered a conference suite where 2 attorneys in dark suits stood waiting. One of them, a composed woman with silver-streaked hair, stepped forward. "Miss Carter," she greeted. "I'm Elizabeth Warren, head legal counsel for the family. We've begun drafting protective measures." Evelyn blinked. "Protective?" Elizabeth nodded. "Your husband's actions yesterday triggered several legal red flags. Tampering with your medical access, draining shared accounts, verbal aggression in a public setting, grounds enough for an immediate protective order. But now that we know who you are, the stakes are higher." Evelyn swallowed. "Higher?" Nathaniel took a seat beside her. "Cole didn't just mistreat his wife, he mistreated a Sterling heir. and the law doesn't look kindly on anyone who endangers family assets. Assets? Evelyn repeated softly. You, Nathaniel said gently. You are the asset. I would be I can there. Elizabeth set a folder in front of Evelyn. Your inheritance ties, your legal status, your rights as a mother, they all must be secured immediately. We've prepared emergency motions. I don't want revenge, Evelyn murmured. I just want safety. And that, Nathaniel said, is what this is. As she signed the first document, her hand shook, not from fear of Cole, though that fear still lived somewhere deep, but from the magnitude of what she was stepping into. For the first time, her name carried weight. Her decisions mattered. Her signature could change the course of her life. Cole will be served by tomorrow morning, Elizabeth continued. He'll be legally prohibited from approaching you. And financially? Nathaniel asked, his tone turning lethal. We're freezing all joint accounts. His access is revoked. Evelyn felt a flutter of guilt. He'll panic. He already is, Nathaniel replied. He just doesn't know how bad it's about to get. It's Mina's story. The attorneys began outlining the next steps: custody protections, asset separation, the possibility of annulment once lineage confirmation was complete. Evelyn listened, absorbing every word even as a part of her mind drifted back through the years. All the times she apologized to Cole, all the moments she minimized herself to avoid conflict, all the tears shed quietly behind closed doors. Now she wondered why she ever accepted so little. Suddenly, the door opened and a young assistant hurried in, breathless. Mr. Sterling, urgent update. Nathaniel's expression darkened. Speak. It's Cole Harrington, the assistant said, nerves tightening his voice. He showed up at the hospital demanding Evelyn's discharge papers. When they refused, he yelled that he was coming here. Evelyn's chest constricted. He's coming to Sterling Tower? The assistant nodded. Yes, and he's angry. Nathaniel's voice turned ice cold. Security will handle him. Elizabeth placed a steadying hand on Evelyn's arm. He cannot reach you. He will not reach you. But before Evelyn could breathe a sigh of relief, the intercom crackled sharply. Mr. Sterling, the security chief said, voice urgent. We have a situation in the lobby. Nathaniel stood instantly. What situation? There was a pause, brief, trembling. Sir, Cole Harrington forced his way into the building. Evelyn's heart stopped. And he's demanding to see your sister. He says he won't leave without her. Chaos had a way of traveling through a building like electricity, and Sterling Tower, usually a fortress of calm precision, was no exception. Evelyn could feel the shift even before the door opened. A murmur of raised voices drifted from the hallway, overlapping with the tense crackle of security radios. Nathaniel stood, calm but radiating danger. Stay here, he instructed Evelyn. Whatever happens, you do not leave this room. Her breath trembled. Nathaniel, don't let him hurt anyone. He won't, Nathaniel said. He's done enough damage for a lifetime. Elizabeth straightened her suit jacket and stepped toward the door. Security will escort him out. But before she could open it, the handle jerked violently. The door burst inward. Cole stood there, disheveled, wild-eyed, sweating from exertion or panic. His tie hung loose, his hair was a mess, and his chest rose and fell with furious breaths. Evelyn instinctively pressed a hand to her belly. Evelyn, Cole said, pointing at her as if she were the one who owed him an explanation. What the hell is going on? Why are there lawyers involved? Why are my accounts frozen? Nathaniel stepped between them like a steel barrier. Because you no longer have access to anything connected to her. Cole shoved him, an idiotic, reckless move. Nathaniel didn't budge. You think you can take my wife? Cole snapped. You think you can take my money? My life? You destroyed your own life, Nathaniel said evenly. Cole's eyes darted to the papers on the table. Legal notices, protective orders, financial freezes. His face twisted with panic. No, she wouldn't do this. Evelyn wouldn't betray me like this. Evelyn's voice shook. I didn't betray you. You betrayed me over and over, Evelyn says. Cole's expression flickered. The mask of charm he carried so often slipping into something harsher. I gave you everything. A home, a life. No one else would have put up with you. Nathaniel's voice cracked like a whip. Enough. But Cole kept going, louder, more desperate. You think you're special now? You think you're too good for me because this guy, this rich clown, decided to adopt you into his fantasy? Evelyn felt something inside her harden. Nathaniel isn't adopting me, she said quietly. He's my family. Cole laughed short, cruel, hysterical. Family? You don't have family, Evelyn. Your Nathaniel slammed the DNA envelope onto the table. You're done here, Cole. Cole froze. What is that? he asked. Evelyn didn't answer. She didn't have to. Nathaniel opened the envelope, pulled out the lab report, and held it up so Cole could see the name printed clearly. Evelyn Sterling. Cole's voice collapsed. Sterling? He looked at her, horrified. You're one of them? His mind raced, calculating, panicking, reaching for any angle to salvage his crumbling life. Evelyn, listen to me, he said, voice suddenly soft. Baby, we can fix this. We can. Don't, she whispered. Security guards appeared at the doorway. Mr. Harrington, one said firmly. You need to come with us. Cole backed up, shaking his head. No, she can't do this to me. Evelyn, think about your baby. Think about our future. Our future ended the night you chose someone else's hand over mine. Cole lunged forward, not to attack, but to grab her, to plead. Nathaniel intercepted him instantly, gripping his arm with controlled force. You will never touch her again, Nathaniel said. Security moved in. Cole fought, shouting, curses, accusations, bargains. But none of it mattered. They dragged him out of the room, his voice echoing down the hallway. Evelyn, you'll regret this. You need me. You'll come back. I know you will. The doors closed behind him. Silence. Evelyn's hands shook, tears burning her eyes, not from grief, but from release. For the first time, the weight of years lifted from her chest. Nathaniel placed the DNA file before her. It's time, he said softly. The world needs to know who you are. She swallowed, voice barely audible. What happens now? Nathaniel looked at her, not as a stranger, but as a brother. Now, he said, we go public. And somewhere across the city, a reporter opened an email with a video attached. Footage of Jade and Cole humiliating Evelyn in front of hundreds. The Sterling legal conference room was silent, except for the faint hum of the city outside. Evelyn sat at the polished table, her hands clasped tightly in her lap. She felt stronger than she had in years, but a nervous tremor still lived beneath her ribs. Today was the day everything became official. Today she would face Cole for the last time, not as his wife, not as a powerless woman begging for scraps of affection, but as Evelyn Sterling, rightful heir to a world he could never touch. Nathaniel sat beside her, steady as stone. Attorneys waited with documents arranged in precise stacks. Security stood by the door, expressionless, but alert. Then the door opened. Cole Harrington walked in, escorted by 2 guards. His face was pale, his eyes bloodshot, and his suit disheveled as if he had dressed in a panic. When he saw Evelyn, he froze, and for a moment, she saw the man he used to be, the one she once believed loved her. But that illusion dissolved quickly, replaced by bitterness and panic. He took a hesitant step forward. Evelyn, sweetheart, we don't have to do this. She didn't speak. Cole tried again. All of this, the drama, the lawyers, this isn't you. You're emotional because of the baby. You're confused. Evelyn felt Nathaniel's protective energy beside her. She lifted her chin. I'm not confused. I see clearly now. Cole's jaw tightened. You'd really throw away our marriage because your rich family swooped in? Because of him? He gestured angrily toward Nathaniel. My brother didn't ruin our marriage, Evelyn said. You did. Cole let out a harsh laugh. Please. You're nothing without me. You think these people care about you? They're using you. You're not one of them. They're feeding you some fantasy so they can control you. Nathaniel's voice cut through the air. If anyone controlled her, it was you. And that ends today. Cole slammed his hand on the table. Shut up. This is between me and my wife. Elizabeth, the attorney, slid a document toward him. This is a restraining order, Mr. Harrington. And this, she slid another, is the petition for divorce. Cole stared at the papers as if they were poison. No. Evelyn, don't do this. Think about everything we built together. What we built, Evelyn whispered. I built us. I worked. I sacrificed. And you took advantage of every part of me. She reached for the pen. Her hand shook, but her decision did not. Evelyn, Cole said desperately, don't sign that. I made mistakes, but you can't. You cheated on me, she said softly, her voice breaking but her resolve sharp as glass. You belittled me. You abandoned me while I carried our child. There's nothing left to save. Before Cole could speak again, she signed her name, Evelyn Sterling. Cole's face drained of color. No, you can't leave me. I need you. It's over, she said. Accept it. Security stepped forward. No, Cole shouted, lunging toward her. Nathaniel intercepted him instantly, gripping his arm with an iron strength that made Cole wince. "Touch her again," Nathaniel warned, "and you'll deal with more than security. To this man, and to the Ryaskov." Cole struggled, but there was no authority left in him, only desperation. "Evelyn, please. I'll change. I'll do anything. Just don't take my life away." "You took your own life apart," she answered. Security escorted him toward the door, his voice cracked, raw and frantic. "You'll regret this, I swear." The door shut behind him. Silence fell. Evelyn exhaled shakily. "Is it really over?" Nathaniel placed a reassuring hand on her shoulder. "It's the end of him," he said. "But for you, this is only the beginning." Before she could speak, her phone buzzed on the table. A breaking news alert flashed across the screen. Jade Monroe releases a statement accusing Evelyn of fraud. Jade Monroe had been in crisis for brand scandals, feuds with influencers, PR nightmares she crafted herself for attention, but never had she faced a storm she couldn't manipulate. Never had she been up against a family whose wealth and influence dwarfed every connection she had ever scraped together. And this time, she had no idea how deep the Sterling's reach truly went. Her statement hit the internet like a lit match dropped in gasoline. "Evelyn Carter has been and to be someone she's not. I believe she is manipulating the Sterling family for money." For a few short minutes, Jade thought she had regained control. Comments poured in. Some supported her, some mocked her. But Jade had always known how to spin a narrative, and she thought she could again, until the second headline appeared, and the third, and the 100th. Sterling family responds to allegations. Nathaniel Sterling releases verified DNA documents. Cole, Harrington, and Jade Monroe under investigation. Jade froze in the middle of her living room, the glow of her giant flat-screen TV washing her pale as the news erupted. "What?" she whispered. She grabbed the remote, switching channels. Every network, every anchor, every reporter, they were all talking about her, and not in the way she was used to. Jade Monroe, social media personality, is facing scrutiny after multiple witnesses confirm her involvement in the public humiliation of Evelyn Carter, now revealed to be Evelyn Sterling, daughter of billionaire Alexander Sterling. A knock at her door startled her. She rushed over, hoping it was Cole, someone, anyone who could help her make sense of this nightmare. But when she opened it, 2 federal agents stood on the other side. "Jade Monroe?" one asked, her throat closed. "Yes, we're with the Internal Revenue Service. We have questions regarding financial inconsistencies tied to your influencer contracts." What?" she stammered. The agent opened a folder. "Several of your income reports appear falsified. Multiple sponsors have claimed fraud. You'll need to come with us for questioning." "No," Jade whispered, backing away. "This is a mistake. I didn't do anything wrong." "Ma'am," the agent said firmly, "failure to comply will result in immediate detainment." Jade's mind raced. She looked around the apartment, the designer bags, the luxury furniture, the perfectly curated life she had built out of smoke and mirrors. This couldn't be happening. Not to her. Not to Jade Monroe. She grabbed her purse, trembling. "Fine, I'll come. Just let me grab my phone." She darted to her bedroom, closing the door long enough to check her notifications. A new video was trending. She clicked. Footage from the Plaza Hotel. The Christmas Eve gala. Clear as day. Jade smirking. Jade tipping wine onto Evelyn's dress. Jade calling her cheap. Cole laughing beside her. And the caption, "The real Jade Monroe." Millions of views, growing by the second. "No," Jade breathed. "No, no, no." A shout came from behind the door. "Miss Monroe, we need to leave now." Jade swiped tears from her face, grabbed her coat, and followed them out, her entire world collapsing around her with every step. As she stepped into the hallway, flashes exploded, paparazzi blocking every exit, cameras firing questions like bullets. She shielded her face, trembling, but one question cut louder than the others. "Jade, is it true the Sterling family is filing charges against you?" She froze. "Charges?" she whispered. The agents exchanged a glance. "We'll discuss everything at the office," one said. But Jade barely heard him, because right then, her phone buzzed a notification from an unknown number. She opened it. One message: "You should not have touched my sister." The sender's name made her blood run cold. Nathaniel Sterling. Her knees buckled as the agents guided her into a black sedan. And across town, Evelyn Sterling was preparing for a confrontation far more dangerous than Jade could ever imagine. Cole Harrington had always believed 2 things about himself: that he was smart and that he was untouchable. But as he sat in the dim corner of a downtown bar, nursing a drink he couldn't afford anymore, He felt both illusions crumble like dust. The bartender ignored him. The patrons avoided him. His phone vibrated endlessly with missed calls from Jade, from his boss, from numbers he didn't recognize. The entire city suddenly felt hostile, as if Manhattan itself had turned its face away. Cole slammed the glass onto the counter, breath shaking. "This is all her fault," he muttered. "Evelyn did this. She set me up. She's not who I thought she was." He told himself he believed that. He needed to believe it. But the pit in his stomach whispered the truth. He had no idea who Evelyn really was, and now everyone else did. He scrolled through social media. Every headline hit him like a punch. Sterling Heiress revealed. Evelyn Sterling files for divorce. Formal complaints against Cole Harrington under review. He dropped the phone, chest tightening. How did everything fall apart so fast? He whispered. As if summoned by his despair, the TV above the bar flickered to a breaking news segment. A polished anchor spoke. In a surprising move, Sterling Global has acquired Harrington and Weber properties. The acquisition includes a complete restructuring of executive staff, most notably, the removal of Deputy Director Cole Harrington. Cole froze. "What?" he breathed. "No. That can't, no." "But," the anchor continued, "sources confirm that Nathaniel Sterling will oversee the transition personally." Cole Harrington was escorted from the building earlier today after attempting unauthorized access to restricted files. Cole's pulse roared in his ears. He leapt off the bar stool and stumbled for the exit, nearly slipping on the wet sidewalk outside. He hailed a cab with frantic gestures. "Sterling Tower," he shouted. The driver hesitated. "You sure? Rough crowd there today. Just drive." Traffic blurred past as Cole's mind spiraled. The company he had worked years to climb through, gone. His reputation destroyed. His marriage over. His mistress under investigation. And all because of one woman he thought he controlled. When the cab stopped, Cole bolted toward Sterling Tower, only to be met by a wave of flashing cameras. Reporters swarmed. "Cole, is it true you falsified accounts? Did you know Evelyn was a Sterling heir? Are you responsible for the Christmas Eve incident? Did you assault security trying to enter the building?" "Shut up," Cole roared, shoving through the crowd. Security guards blocked the entrance. "You're not allowed inside," one said flatly. "I'm here to talk to Nathaniel Sterling," Cole demanded. "He can't do this to me." The guard didn't move. "He already has." Cole tried pushing past him. In an instant, 2 more guards pinned him back. "You can't bar me," Cole shouted, voice cracking. "I worked here." "Aye, sir," the guard said calmly. "You were terminated. This building is private property. Further attempts to enter will result in arrest." The word arrested echoed inside Cole's head. His panic doubled. "You don't understand," he shouted. "Evelyn is my wife. She owes me." A new voice cut in. "She owes you nothing." The crowd parted. Nathaniel Sterling walked toward him, flanked by security, lawyers, and the kind of quiet, unshakable power Cole had never possessed in his life. Nathaniel stopped only a foot away, cold, controlled, deadly calm. "You ruined your own life," Nathaniel said. "But you made one mistake bigger than all the others." Cole trembled. "What mistake?" Nathaniel leaned in. "You underestimated her." The guards released Cole just long enough for him to stagger backwards, stunned. But Nathaniel wasn't finished. "As of today," he continued, "the Sterling family is pursuing legal action, financial misconduct, emotional endangerment, coercion. You'll be hearing from our attorneys. Down." Cole's world darkened around the edges. "No," he whispered. "Nathaniel, please." Nathaniel turned away. The guards moved forward. Cole collapsed to his knees. The flashing cameras captured everything. And somewhere high above, in the top floor of Sterling Tower, Evelyn watched the broadcast live, her hand trembling over her belly, as an unexpected figure appeared in the doorway behind her. Evelyn stood frozen as the figure in the doorway stepped into the soft light of the executive suite. For a second, the world narrowed to nothing but the sound of her own heartbeat and the steady hum of the city below the window. The man who entered was older than Nathaniel, silver hair swept neatly, posture regal even beneath the weight of years. His presence filled the room without effort. His eyes, deep, storm gray like Nathaniel's, softened the moment they landed on her. Alexander Sterling, her father. Evelyn's breath caught painfully. She had imagined this moment, but never expected it to feel so overwhelming, so terrifying, so strangely familiar. Nathaniel followed him inside, quieter than usual, as if even he knew this moment belonged to them alone. Alexander's voice trembled. "Evelyn." Her name in his voice made her knees weaken. She swallowed hard. I don't know what to say." "Then let me speak," he said softly. He took a slow step forward. For 28 years, I've lived with the guilt of losing you. 28 years of searching, of hoping, of refusing to let the world forget your name. His voice cracked. And now you're here. Evelyn blinked quickly, tears blurring her vision. I didn't know anyone was looking for me. Alexander's face twisted with pain. You should never have suffered the life you did. You should never have been alone. Her lips trembled. I survived. You did more than survive, he whispered. You became extraordinary. Nathaniel placed a gentle hand on her shoulder, steadying her as her emotions surged. But before Evelyn could speak, a sudden, sharp pain shot through her abdomen. She gasped, grabbing the edge of the table. Nathaniel's expression sharpened. Evelyn, what's wrong? I don't know, she breathed, panic rising. It hurts more than before. Alexander stepped forward instantly. Is it the baby? The pain intensified, radiating across her spine. Her fingers curled into fists. Something's wrong. Nathaniel was already on the phone. Get a medical team to the executive suite. Now. Evelyn's breath shortened, her heart pounding in terror. Nathaniel, Dad, I'm scared. Alexander wrapped an arm around her trembling shoulders. You're safe. I'm right here. The door swung open as Sterling medical personnel rushed in. 3 doctors, 2 nurses, and emergency equipment. They moved around her swiftly with calm, practiced urgency. Contractions are close, one doctor said. She's going into active labor. Here? Evelyn gasped. I can't. You can, Alexander said firmly, gripping her hand. You're strong. They moved her onto a medical stretcher and strapped her gently but securely. Pain rippled through her again, sharper this time, stealing her breath. Elevator's ready, a nurse said. Nathaniel followed alongside, his jaw clenched. We're taking her to the medical wing. Full neonatal support is in place. End quote. Evelyn cried out as another contraction hit. She squeezed Alexander's hand, tears streaming. Dad. He bent down, kisses trembling against her forehead. I'm here, Evelyn. I'm not losing you again. The medical team rushed her through the private corridors, down a secured elevator, and into the state-of-the-art Sterling medical suite. Machines beeped, lights flashed. People moved with precision. Evelyn's vision blurred as the pain consumed her. Baby's heart rate rising. A nurse called. She's dilating fast. Another warned. We need to move now. Evelyn clung to their voices, to her father's steady presence, to Nathaniel's hand gripping her shoulder. I'm scared, she whimpered. You're not alone, Alexander whispered. This time, you're not alone. Hours blurred into minutes, minutes blurred into seconds, and then, a cry pierced the air. A small, fierce, beautiful cry. Evelyn sobbed with relief as the doctor lifted her newborn son. He's perfect, the doctor said softly. Alexander's shoulders sagged with gratitude. Nathaniel exhaled a breath he'd been holding for years. But before Evelyn could hold her child, a nurse rushed in, face pale. Mr. Sterling, she said urgently. We have a problem. Nathaniel stiffened. What problem? The nurse swallowed hard. Cole Harrington just checked into the hospital under a false identity. It's Bryce. The moment Evelyn held her newborn son, the pain, chaos, and fear dissolved into something pure and overwhelming. The tiny weight in her arms felt like a promise, one written long before she understood her place in the world. Her son's soft cries quieted as his cheek rested against her chest, and Evelyn exhaled, tears spilling down her cheeks. Alexander sat beside her bed, reverent and shaken, as if witnessing a miracle he had once believed impossible. Nathaniel stood behind him, arms crossed, trying to appear composed, yet there was a tremor of relief in his posture he couldn't hide. He's perfect, Alexander whispered, just like his mother. Evelyn looked up, voice trembling. Thank you for being here. Her father shook his head gently. This time, I would die before leaving you. The room filled with warmth, nurses stepping lightly as they monitored her vitals and the child's. But beneath the peaceful glow, tension lingered because of the nurse's warning. Cole was somewhere in the building. Nathaniel stepped to the corner of the room, lowering his voice as he spoke into his phone. Increase security. Full lockdown of the maternity wing. No one enters without Sterling clearance. His tone was ice. Evelyn looked over, her body tense. Nathaniel, he won't hurt the baby, will he? Nathaniel turned, softening only for her. No, he won't get near either of you, I promise. Hours passed quietly. Evelyn drifted in and out of sleep, her baby resting in a clear bassinet beside the bed. Alexander never left her side, occasionally brushing her hair back gently, trying to make up for years he could never replace. When evening fell, the skyline outside shimmered gold and violet. A nurse brought in a warm meal, and Evelyn finally felt calm enough to speak. "Dad," she said softly, "what happens now?" Alexander inhaled slowly, as though weighing decades of responsibility. "Now, you begin a life that was always meant for you, a life with protection, stability, and love." He paused, eyes on the baby. "Your son will grow up with everything you were denied." Evelyn blinked back tears. "But what about Cole? He won't let go. He'll keep coming." Nathaniel stepped forward, placing a reassuring hand on her bedrail. "That's why we're going public. The world needs to know you are a Sterling. With the announcement, no one will dare lay a hand on you." She hesitated. "Will it be safe?" "It will be safer than living in the shadows," he said. Alexander nodded. "Tomorrow morning, the Sterling Foundation will hold a press conference. I will introduce you officially." The words struck Evelyn's heart with both weight and awe. "Introduce me," she whispered. "You will stand before the world as Evelyn Sterling," her father affirmed. "Not the abandoned child, not the mistreated wife. My daughter, heir to a legacy." Evelyn pressed a hand to her heart. "I never thought I'd have a family." Nathaniel smiled faintly. "You have one now, and we're not going anywhere." Before she could respond, the security panel outside her room beeped sharply. Everyone turned. A guard rushed in, breathless. "Mr. Sterling's security caught someone attempting to access the maternity ward." "Cole?" Nathaniel asked instantly. The guard shook his head. "No, sir, someone else." Alexander stood. "Who?" The guard swallowed. "A woman. Fake ID. Tried to bribe one of the nurses." Evelyn's stomach dropped. "Who?" The guard looked at her, voice grim. "Jade Monroe. She's inside the hospital." The moment Jade Monroe's name left the guard's mouth, Evelyn felt her blood turn cold. She instinctively tightened her grip around her newborn's blanket as if shielding him from a danger he couldn't understand. Alexander stepped closer to her bed, protective instincts hardening the lines of his face. Nathaniel, meanwhile, looked as though he could command an army with a single breath. "She came here?" Evelyn whispered. "Why?" "To finish what she started," Nathaniel said grimly. "Jade never accepts consequences. She thinks she can outmaneuver the world if she just spins fast enough." Alexander touched Evelyn's hand. "You're safe. We'll handle this. Think." End quote. But Evelyn shook her head, surprising even herself. "No, I'm done letting other people fight my battles. If she's here, if she wants to face me, then I'll face her." Nathaniel's expression softened with a mix of pride and concern. "You don't owe her anything." "I know," Evelyn said. "But I owe myself closure." Nathaniel signaled the guard. "Where is she now?" "Detained in the west corridor. Security is holding her in a consultation room." Alexander straightened. "Escort us." End quote. Evelyn carefully handed her son to a nurse, pressing a gentle kiss onto his forehead before rising. Her legs were still weak, but her resolve held her upright. The hallway outside buzzed with controlled activity, guards positioned at every corner, nurses moving quickly, whispers spreading like thin smoke. When they reached the consultation room, 2 guards stepped aside. Inside, Jade sat at a metal table, hands cuffed, mascara streaked down her cheeks. The glamorous influencer was gone. In her place sat a trembling woman, stripped of her armor, reduced to what she had always been, cruelty without power. Her eyes widened when she saw Evelyn. "You shouldn't be walking after giving birth," Jade blurted, tone sharp with disbelief. "What are you doing here?" "Finishing this," Evelyn said quietly. Jade's mouth twisted. "I didn't come here to hurt you. Then why sneak in with fake ID?" Nathaniel asked, stepping forward like a shadow. "Why bribe a nurse? Why violate federal security laws?" Jade looked away. "I panicked. Everything is falling apart. The agents, the videos, the press, my managers dropped me. Everyone hates me." "That's not my fault," Evelyn said. "You did that." Jade's voice cracked. "I just needed one last chance to explain, to fix my image." Nathaniel scoffed softly. "You didn't come to apologize. You came to manipulate her again." Jade slammed her cuffed hands on the table. "I wanted her to tell the media I'm not a monster. If she just said she forgave me, everything would calm down." Evelyn stared at her. "You humiliated me while I was carrying a child. You tried to break me. Why do you think you're entitled to forgiveness?" Jade's breathing quickened. Because without my reputation, I'm nothing. I'll lose everything." "You destroyed yourself," Evelyn said softly. "Not me, not the Sterlings. You." Alexander stepped forward, voice firm yet calm. "Miss Monroe, You didn't just harm my daughter. You endangered her pregnancy, contributed to an assault, and attempted unlawful entry into a restricted medical wing. Jade's face drained. Are you pressing charges? Yes, Alexander said simply. Every single one available. Jade shook violently. Please, Evelyn, please help me. Evelyn met her tear-filled eyes. For a moment, she searched for even a shred of remorse. She found none. I hope, Evelyn said quietly, you learned something from this. Nathaniel nodded to security. Take her. Jade screamed as the guards escorted her out, her pleas echoing down the hall. When silence finally returned, Evelyn exhaled shakily. It's over, she whispered. Nathaniel rested a hand on her shoulder. Not quite. There's one last person who thinks he still has a claim on you. Evelyn's pulse quickened. Cole? The guard's radio crackled to life. Mr. Sterling, we found him. Thanks for watching. Nathaniel stiffened. Where? The radio hissed. He's on his way to the press conference. The Sterling Foundation press conference was held in the grand ballroom of the Metropolitan Pavilion, a venue chosen for its sweeping chandeliers and marble floors, fitting for the moment the world would finally learn the truth. Journalists filled the room, flashes popping like stars, murmurs rising with every passing minute. Evelyn stood behind the velvet curtain, dressed in an elegant cream suit tailored that morning, her posture straight despite the exhaustion still tugging at her limbs. Her newborn slept peacefully in Nathaniel's arms nearby, unaware of the world waiting outside to know his name. Alexander stood beside her, steady, proud, the protective presence she had longed for her entire life. You don't have to speak, Alexander told her softly. I can handle this. Evelyn shook her head gently. No, I want to. For once. I want my own voice to end the story. Nathaniel smiled. Then let's give them a story they'll never forget. A coordinator signaled it was time. The Sterlings stepped onto the stage and the room erupted in camera flashes. Alexander took the podium first. Thank you all for coming, he began, his voice deep, commanding decades of respect. Tonight, I reveal something long kept from the world and painfully kept from my own family. If you T7, he paused, eyes softening as he looked at Evelyn. My daughter, Evelyn Sterling, was taken from me as an infant. For 28 years, I searched for her. Tonight, I stand before you whole again. Gasps rippled across the audience. Evelyn stepped forward, her breath trembling but voice steady. I lived most of my life believing I was unwanted, that my existence was something the world forgot, but now I know the truth. My family never stopped searching. End quote. Her eyes glistened as she continued. This isn't a story about tragedy, it's a story about survival, about learning that even when people try to destroy you, strength can grow from the pieces they break. Reporters scribbled furiously, cameras fixated on her. And to anyone watching this, Evelyn said softly, know that no one has the right to define your worth. No betrayal, no cruelty gets to decide who you are. The room fell silent, mesmerized. But suddenly, a commotion erupted at the back. Shouts, security converging, cameras swinging. Cole Harrington burst through the crowd, disheveled and desperate, his voice cracking with rage. Evelyn, stop this. You can't erase me. Gasps spread across the ballroom. Evelyn stood frozen for a heartbeat, then straightened. For the first time, she looked at Cole, not with fear, not with longing, but with clarity. Cole, she said, her voice carrying across the room. You already erased yourself. Security moved in, but Cole pushed forward. You owe me. I made you who you are. Alexander stepped in front of his daughter, his presence towering. She owes you nothing. Cole's expression twisted. You can't. Nathaniel cut him off sharply. This press conference is being broadcast worldwide. Every word you say right now will define your future. Cole faltered. Nathaniel gestured subtly to security. Remove him. 2 guards grabbed Cole's arms. He struggled, shouting until his voice cracked. You'll regret this, all of you. No one listened. The doors slammed behind him. Silence reclaimed the room. Evelyn inhaled slowly, letting the last piece of her past fall away. Evelyn stepped back toward the microphone as the ballroom fell silent. For months, other people had spoken for her, lied about her, and tried to reduce her life to a scandal. Tonight, she would choose the final words. My story does not end in fear, she said steadily. It ends in freedom. The audience rose. Applause thundered through the hall as Nathaniel gently placed her newborn son into her arms. Alexander stood beside her and kissed her forehead, not as a rescuer claiming credit for her victory, but as a partner honoring the woman who had fought for it herself. Evelyn looked down at her child. "This is the life my son will know," she said. "A life built on dignity, honesty, and love without control." The applause grew louder, but Evelyn no longer needed the approval of the room. Her peace did not depend on cameras, headlines, or the people who had once judged her. Cole's betrayal had been exposed. Jade's humiliation had failed. Evelyn's identity, legacy, and future had all been restored, but her greatest victory was simpler. She believed in herself again. Evelyn had learned that her value was never determined by the people who refused to recognize it. She was not defined by the marriage that broke her or the cruelty she endured. She was defined by the moment she stood up, protected her child, and chose a life where fear no longer made the decisions. With her son safe in her arms and Alexander beside her, Evelyn left the stage without looking back. Her story did not close with pain. It closed with truth, freedom, and the peaceful new life she had earned.